الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نون والقلم وما يسطرون. ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون. وإن لك لأجرا غير ممنون. وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم. فستبصر ويبصرون بأيكم المفتون. إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين. فلا تطع المكذبين. ودوا لو تدهن فيدهنون. ولا تطع كل هلاف مهين هماز مشاء بنميم مناع للخير معتد أثيم. إذا تتلى عليه آياتنا قال أساطير الأولين. صدق الله العظيم.
ما شاء الله. جزاكم الله khair. Inshallah, before I call Mufti Sahib forward, Mufti Sahib doesn't really need an explanation. Alhamdulillah, there was an Imam with us here in Southampton. As many of us, or all of us know, Mufti Sahib is now in his own academy in Portsmouth. In relation to today's topic, and even the topic that we had on the 25th of December, this was actually upon the advice of Mufti Sahib, who mentioned or reminded me about the importance of the topics that we have, the roles and responsibilities of ourselves living in the 21st century, and also in regards to the confused Muslim state and mind, even their actions in the 21st century, based on so many situations and fitnas and temptations surrounding us. So inshallah, without further ado, I'd like to call Mufti Sahib forward, inshallah. Everybody is requested to listen attentively, inshallah. Make the intention of listening attentively and trying to put into action everything that has been said.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Just a couple of minutes to say a couple of things, inshallah. Imam Sahib has introduced Mufti Sahib. I just want to say that we have a very special relationship with Mufti Liaqat. It goes back quite a long way in this masjid, in the history of this masjid. I remember when we started work in this masjid, he was here before I was, and my beard used to be black at that time, so it's all white now. And he was here, brothers, at that time when this masjid was basically a house for the homeless, the pigeons, the rats. We had more of those than the musallis. There were very few people in this masjid, and it was raining all the time. And this, there was basically Imam. I think this started Salah on the first floor, and there was basically nothing here. And in the back, it was basically full of homeless people we were trying to get rid of. So what I'm trying to say is that at that time, Mufti Sahib, alhamdulillah, sacrificed a lot of his time, energy, effort, advice, especially to the committee, to us, to get the masjid up and running, inshallah. And he worked very hard with us. And we really appreciate when it comes to this masjid. We owe him a lot of gratitude from Bakr Masjid, alhamdulillah. and all the committee and everybody, inshallah. We are very thankful to Mufti Sahib to come here, and Jazakumullah khair for taking your time.
نحمد ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن يبتغي غير الإسلام دينا فلن يقبل منه وهو في الآخرة من الخاسرين صدق الله مولانا العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. My dear respected brothers and elders, mothers and sisters, Alhamdulillah, it is a great honor to be here with you and amongst you, and to see this place, mashallah, go forward. It's very pleasing, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take it even further. Today's talk, confused Muslim in this time and era. In a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned that at the end of the time, we Muslims will be confused even in greater number. Confusion will be in deen. And this is a prophecy of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. And as we all know, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. What the Prophet ﷺ has said, it will happen. And this confusion that we're going through or we will have, for example, confusion in salah. Why does that happen? Many reasons. Ulama have mentioned sometimes it could be that a person has not done ablution properly, because of which shaitan comes and starts whispering in the person's heart. That's why in one hadith the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned that when a person starts his salah, Allah's attention is towards him. When his heart is not in salah, his mind is not in salah, Allah puts a veil. You see, even in salah, if our heart and mind is not in salah, then Allah's attention is finished. So confusion in salah, majority of the time shaitan doesn't want us to pray salah. So he will come and whisper in our hearts, all sorts of thoughts in our heart. Somebody once came to Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah and said, "Oh, Imam Sahib, I have buried some treasure, but I forgot where I buried it." So Imam Sahib said, "Go start salah. Go start off a 2 rakat, salah." He went and he started to offer 2 rakat salah. Came into his mind. So he came running back and he said to Imam Sahib, "How did you know that this would happen? That when I start salah, I will remember it?" He said, "Our salah is such that everything else besides salah is in our head. So when we are performing salah, shaitan, because why? He wants you to finish the salah quick as possible, so remind him where he's buried so he can get to it. So he doesn't want us to pray proper salah. So salah, in salah, when we get confused, it's coming from outside. The more attention, more focus we are in salah, and inshallah Allah's attention is with you. Like in hadith, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned in Abu Dawud, that the Prophet ﷺ used to recite Surah Fatiha and stop at every verse. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. Not in one voice, in one, but is to break after every verse. Why? Because in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned, when a person recites the Surah Fatiha, Allah replies, Majjadani Abdi, Hamidani Abdi, and so on. So when you recite Surah Fatiha, concentrate, focus. Today, ulama have mentioned, look at in 3 places, is your heart is attached to it or not? Number 1, in the Sima' al-Quran. When listening to the Quran, not only by the Imam Sahib, even yourself. That is why ulama have mentioned, recite in such a manner, in such a voice, in a tone that you can hear your own recitation. Because why? These are the words of Allah. That is why ulama have mentioned that if one person recites the Quran by closing his mouth, lips, he would not be fulfilling the tajweed of the Quran. For example, if a person closes his mouth and mumbles inside, he won't be able to pronounce like the letter B, Ba. So he's not reciting properly. This is why when you recite the Quran, you should recite in such a manner that you can hear it yourself. In other words, Allah is telling you, He's reciting, He's reading. So when you recite the Quran, does your heart, is it attached or distant? Are you bonding or responding? In the Sima' al-Quran. When we sit in our cars, when we are at home, working, listen to the Quran, recite the Quran. It is mentioned in the books of Ahadith, as Sa'id ibn Jubair radiallahu ta'ala, that when he used to open the Quran, it was very difficult for him to recite. Because he used to open the Quran and he used to start looking at the words, هَذَا كَلَامُ رَبِّي, these are the words of my Lord, the Master of the universe. هَذَا كَلَامُ رَبِّي, هَذَا كَلَامُ رَبِّي, and he used to weep and cry. It is mentioned in the books of Ahadith, the Prophet ﷺ, throughout the night, he recited one verse only throughout the night and weeping through the Prophet ﷺ. That if you were to punish them, فَإِنَّهُمْ عِبَادُكَ, they are your servants. وَإِن تَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ, if you were to punish them, they are your servant. If you forgive them, you are غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ. One verse throughout the night. Imagine the person is reciting the verse and thinking, what about on the day of judgment Allah was to tell me, وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ, you are mujrim, you are the guilty one, separate from the non-guilty. Today's confusion is because we don't have the proper knowledge of Islam. Many confusion. So, what I was trying to say is, if our heart and mind is attached in the Sima' al-Quran, or fi majalis al-zikr, or in the remembrance of Allah, zikr, bayan, lectures. We have one bayan, one lecture a week on a Friday. Even then, we are the last ones. We don't want to be reminded. We don't want to learn. We think we know all. even Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, like the great Imam ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi mentions when he was asked, when should you learn, or when should you start to learn, and when should you end? He said, min al-mahdi ilallah, from birth till death. Learning never stops. This is why somebody was asked, why do we not benefit from the lectures? He said, we don't recite the Quran, we don't thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way we should be thanking Him for the ni'mah, the blessing that He has given us. We do not repent from our sins the way we should repent from our sins. We don't recite the Quran with learning the Quran, understanding the Quran. What we listen from our elders, we do not act upon. And when we bury our dead, we take no lesson. Chala beta gaya. Whoever it was, he's gone. But we take no heed from our burial. That this tomorrow could be mine. We take no heed. Our colleague, one of our colleagues, Mawla Sha'anuddin rahmatullah, just passed away. Last one is mentioned to the Imam Sahib. A very close friend. We were 40 of us in our Jamaat. 40 of us in the Jamaat. And our Jamaat was named the Chillawali Jamaat. And he, out of the 40, I think he was the smallest. But he died last Wednesday. So imagine, always think about death. We may go to sleep and never wake up. We may leave the house and never return. We may sit in the car and maybe we might not even get out of the car. Mufti Liaqat from Manchester, he came to Sheikh Salim Dorat's bayan in Leicester. Him, his wife and 2 daughters. M6 accident, finish on the spot. Life is very short, my brothers. Life is very short. You know, there's a nicely put in Urdu. 2018 has left us. 2019 has begun. In Urdu they say, इस दीवार से एक ईंट गिर गई. A block of has fallen. But we are engaged in celebrating 2019 when we should be mourning and crying in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that a life, a year has left us from my whatever years I have. So in the Sima'i al-Quran, in the Majalis al-Zikr, fi awqat al-Khaliyah, when we are alone, seclusion, nobody's there, what do we do at that time? See, most of the time, people, youngsters, everybody is on the mobile. And if there's nobody around, then we go on to other sites that we shouldn't go. We put our internet on, we watch other movies and such and such. Because why? Awqat al-Khaliyah, there's nobody here. Nobody to see me. No parents, no guardians, no small ones, so we think we're free. In these 3 places, if our heart is attached with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then remember, Alhamdulillah. Or else, فَإِن لَمْ تَجِدْهُ فِي هَذِهِ الْمَوَاقِعِ سَلِ اللَّهَ أَن يَمُنَّ عَلَيْكَ بِقَلْبٍ فَإِنَّهُ لَا قَلْبَ لَكَ. If in these 3 places, our hearts and our minds are not attached, then ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you with the heart, because you don't have any heart. That is why there's a nice saying. Your mind and your heart is like a garden. Your thoughts are like seeds. So in the garden, in this garden, either you can grow flowers or you can grow weed. Meaning grass, not the other weed. So our minds and our heart, the more cleaner it is, the more flowers will be in this garden. But if our heart and mind is dirty, is filth, full of dirt, full of filth, what are you going to get from it? So keep your heart and mind clean, attached with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, attached with Quran and Sunnah, attached the love, create the love of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in your heart. Have you heard the story of the Julaybib radiyallahu ta'ala? Julaybib radiyallahu ta'ala, short in height, disfigured, lot of disabilities. He had no clan, no family, nobody knew his parents. He was disliked. Nobody wanted to sit with him. Nobody showed any companionship, any love towards him. Even the children of Madinatul Munawwara at the time, they used to criticize, they used to laugh and mock. To this extent, Julaybib radiyallahu ta'ala says, I felt like committing suicide. But when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered into Madinatul Munawwara, everything changed. I started to sit in his company. I accepted Islam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed his attention and love to this extent that one day I was sitting with him and he said to me, "Oh Julaybib, do you not desire anything? Do you not want anything from me?" He said, "Oh Prophet of Allah, your companionship is sufficient. What else do I need? I did not have this companionship. Everybody used to criticize me. Everybody used to mock and laugh with me. But now I have you. I can come anytime, whenever I feel unhappy, I can come to your majlis, sit with you in your company. It makes me feel better." Then he said, "Oh, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, oh Julaybib, I meant a companionship, a wife." So Julaybib smiled and said, "Oh Prophet of Allah, who will give me their daughter? Because obviously he's ugly, his height is short, he has nothing." He said, "Oh Prophet of Allah, I would love to, but who will give me?" So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Leave it to me." So he went and he knocked on the door. The Sahabi, the Ansari Sahabi opened the door. When he saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his door, he was very happy, overjoyed. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Oh," to his companion, "that I have come to ask your daughter hand in marriage." Now the Ansari Sahabi thought, "MashaAllah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is asking for my daughter's hand." He was chuffed, he was very happy. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam realized there's something wrong here. So he turned around and said, "Not for me, for Julaybib." Now the Ansari Sahaba's face changed. "For Julaybib?" "Yes." "Oh Prophet of Allah, I need to ask the whole ministry." He said, "By all means." So when the husband came and informed that the Prophet ﷺ has come for the hand of your daughter to Julaybib, she started to cry, shout, how can that be? Now it is mentioned in the books, this Ansari Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala, his daughter was so beautiful that there was no other Ansari lady more beautiful than her. No other Ansari ladies were beautiful than her. It is mentioned in the books that she was so pious and muttaqi and God-fearing that not even the sky has seen her even single hair. Meaning always covered. And the mother started to cry, this is my daughter, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam puts her hand for Julaybib, and look at Julaybib, he hasn't got anything, as usual. कहते हैं ना कि भाई शादी के वक्त लोग धन देखते हैं, बैंक बैलेंस, घर देखते हैं, और कहते हैं क्या भाई दीन देखो, look at the deen, don't look at the bank balance, don't look at his state, don't look at his work, professionalism, look at the deen. ऐसे दीन आ जाएगा, दीन में कम देखते, पहले तो ये देखो, फिर दीन देखो. If can come later. If a person is religious, then inshallah the wealth can come later. But now, is he graduate? Is he professional? Does he own his house? Does he have his own car? Does he have his own business? So the mother started to cry and so on. Eventually the daughter heard something, and so she came down and said, what's happening here? So the mother said, you know, the Prophet ﷺ has come and he has asked for your hand to Julaybib, and this is what. And she suddenly stopped. The daughter said, Mother, do you not understand who came and knocked on your door? Who came and knocked on your door? Any common person? He was the best of the creation, the beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has knocked on your door to ask for your daughter's hands to Julaybib. He knows something that we don't. You should be happy that the proposal came from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And suddenly she changes. She understands that I've been wrong. So they accept. Julaybib marries. After a few days or weeks, the Prophet ﷺ, in this, before his wedding, he had nothing. So Abu Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu and Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu came with some money, and they gave it to him. This is his money. He took her home, and eventually was so happy. The Prophet ﷺ announced that we are to go to the battlefield. Thus Julaybib radiallahu ta'ala was preparing. His father-in-law came. He said, my son, you have just got married. Just recently. The Prophet ﷺ is going in this expedition. You don't have to go. He hasn't mentioned that by name that you have to go. He said, whoever is free, come. So this is, this is the honeymoon period. Stay back. I will go. You stay with my daughter. He said, how can you, O father-in-law, tell me when the Prophet ﷺ is going to the battlefield, we need to stay behind? So he left. And he did not return. It is mentioned in the books, the Prophet ﷺ, because Julaybib was like a child. Height was short, disfigured, he wasn't very weighty. The Prophet ﷺ picked him up and he said, Oh Allah, Julaybib minni wa ana minhu. And he says it 3 times, Julaybib is from me and I am from Julaybib. Sahabas at that time turned around and said, Oh Prophet, wallahi, wallahi, till this day we did not realize the status and rank Julaybib had in the eyes of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he himself buried him. Imagine how much love he had for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was a no one. But today, after 1400 years, when we take his name, what do we say? Radiallahu. The question now here is, when I die, when we die, will somebody say anything? Oh, he's gone, good riddance. I've heard this myself. We were burying this chap in Portsmouth Cemetery. His own son, I'm hearing his own son saying the old man is gone, good. Where have we left our children? So confusion. A child sees the parents, the guardians mixing religion with culture. Very common. Oh, our parents, our elders used to do it. That doesn't make it Sharia. That doesn't make it Islam. We are reading things from the books, from the magazine, a little bit from here, picking up from things, and we are mixing all this into Islam and thinking this is Islam. The child sees all sorts of things, like just in the Christmas period, this brother texted me and he said, this is what's happening in the family. I said, what's happening in the family? So he showed me a picture. MashaAllah, there's a Christmas tree at home. celebrating. Now, this is confusion. We are confusing our children. Oh, my father celebrated Christmas. Then we are confusing our own children. That Christmas and Islam goes together. This is their tradition, this is their religion, this is our religion. Have you ever seen any Christian or a Jew, celebrate our celebration? Why is it that we as Muslims are celebrating in this manner? Confusion after confusion. Then on top of that, the media, mashallah, propagating and bombarding Islam is a violent religion, all sorts of things, a terrorist religion, a barbaric religion. So our children, we tell our children, son, don't wear topi here, or son, don't speak about Islam, don't do salam. So why? Confused. We read, we hear from the media and other things, and eventually, wallahi al-azim, I have seen many cases. I've heard ulama speak that many are leaving Islam because they are confused. As this person who came to me a couple of months back, non-Muslim, and he came on a Friday after Jummah. Somebody introduced me. And he said, this person is thinking of becoming a Muslim. So I took him into the living room and I asked, what's the reason? So he said, no, I just like Islam. But something wasn't right. Because, when people want to accept Islam, you can feel them, there's a lot of reasons. So he turned around and said, no, I have a question. And when he said that, clicked. He said, what's the question? He said, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam married a girl at the age of 6. I realized that he hasn't come to accept Islam. He has come to So I said, okay, do you have time? He said, I have time. I said, sit down. And I explained to him few things. And I said, even in this time and age, in the 21st century, you go to certain part of the world, girls aged at 10, 11, 12, you can marry them. Do you know that? He said, well, they're very backward and this and that. I said, this is your thinking now. Even look at some of the rulers and kings of this country. And then eventually, he started to change the topic. I said, no, stay on the topic. This is what it is. So sometimes they confuse us in such a way in school. Many, the sex education, the gay and other relationship. So what happens is, when we do not talk to our young ones, and when they don't have any answers to their questions, when we don't answer their questions, what are we doing? Is they getting their answers from who? The non-Muslims. So our child is confused. He sees something, my father says, don't lie. And then he goes to shop and he lies. He sells his things by lying. He does it, deceiving, all this. So everything is. Somebody asked me a question, a couple of months back, you must have heard, there's this rumor going on that in Birmingham University, in the library of Birmingham University, they found a Quran which is more than 1300 years old. Yeah. You must have read about it. Yeah. So the brother came and he said, if we have this Quran, it's more than 1300 years ago. I said, who said this is more than 1300 years? A Muslim? And a scholar? He said, no, it's the Liberian and presses. I said, this is where it's coming from, confusion, create confusion. We don't know where it's from. No ulama has authorized this. So I said, okay, fair enough. If it was a female, I said, if this female is so authentic, will you let her lead you in salah? I said, no, how can I do that? If she can't lead you in salah, how can you take her word? This is 13 over 13. It may be 1300. We don't know who wrote it. When we have the Holy Quran in our sight, when we have the Quran everywhere, why do we need over 1300 years old Quran? This is the same Quran being read everywhere in the world. But to create confusion. So you can see where I'm coming from. All this confusion coming from everywhere, every direction. And we're not helping our young ones. We as parents, we don't have time. You know, it's the Imam's job. It's the Imam's job. Our parents, as parents, guardians of the young ones, it is our responsibility. Like for an example, it's our responsibility to feed them, isn't it? It's our responsibility to clothe them. It's our responsibility to give them a roof over their head. It's our responsibility. If this is our responsibility, then responsibility of this world as well in the hereafter, where's that responsibility going? Has he prayed his salah? Is he memorizing the Quran? Is he learning about Islam? Because why? You know, in some books, ulama have mentioned that you should perform tahajjud. Every parent should perform tahajjud. Why? For the sake of the children. You see, everything has consequences. When a nabaligh, immature child does something good, the parents are rewarded. Nabaligh, nothing. But if he commits a crime, if he does an evil, he is forgiven. But good, the parents get. Like in a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned, إِنَّ الرَّجُلَ لَتُرْفَعُ دَرَجَتَهُ فِي الْجَنَّةِ فَيَقُولُ أن هذا فيقال باستغفار ولدك له. When a father has died, he's gone to his grave, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevates his status. So he asks, فيقول أن هذا, where is this from? Or why is this? I was here, why am I brought up here? So he will be given an answer that your child seeked forgiveness for you. So what our child does in this world, we will benefit. If he does wrong, we will also get something from it. This is why it is important that we leave our children in such a way that they can carry Islam to their generation and after their generation. That is why it is mentioned in the books that I was reading once. It says that if you look the grandparents, the father and the son, if the grandparents mix Islam and culture, Islam and society, Islam and other things surrounding, then eventually the child will receive something, and then the grandchild, by the time he gets to the grandchild, only name is remained, and by the great-grand, Islam is gone out of this house. If Iman is decreasing by day, we all know that, we can feel that. Look at our elders, how much Iman they had. But us, our Iman is decreasing. So if we don't leave our children in the right way, in the right manner, in the right path, then eventually he won't pass through Islam to his children. And by the next generation is gone. Who will be punished? This is why when a person leaves his state behind for his children, and if the state is not used wisely, accordingly, then the person who's left, he gets a share of it. Why does Qabil and Habil, do you know the story of Qabil and Habil? Qabil killed Habil. So every murder, every killing that takes place in the face of this earth, Qabil gets a share. So if we don't leave sahih things behind, good things behind to our children, then eventually Islam will die out and we will be the means and cause of it. So, teach your children Quran. Teach them the sahih knowledge of Islam. Guide them in every step. Don't be harsh. If you don't pray Salah, you'll go to Jahannam. No. Be soft-hearted towards them. Tell them that let us pray together, we will go to Jannah. We will love the food. You see, a child, remember, a child is a child. A child can observe everything, can take everything. So if we give them good, then inshallah the child will remember. My father, rahmatullah alayhi, used to take us to Fajr. Me and my small brother, because the other two brothers were in the madrasa. So I used to think to myself, my father is the wickedest of the person on the face of this earth. There is no crueler person than my father. The whole Portsmouth, we know everybody. Nobody attends Fajr. And he used to get us up and take us to Fajr. And we used to think, Allah, when will Allah put some rahmah in his heart? But now, whenever I raise my hand, I thank Allah for this father of mine. It's hard to take that at that particular time. But now you realize the benefit of it. Today people are coming and asking, Mufti Sahib, give us a ta'weez, give us something to read. Why? My daughter's not listening, my brother's not listening, my son is not listening, my wife is not listening, nobody is listening. Of course nobody is going to listen. When you don't listen to Allah, who's going to listen to you? If I would have listened to Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then everybody would have listened to me. So, give them the sahih knowledge of Islam. If we see something wrong, then change it in such a way, give them the right attention, you see, when the time comes to buy something, when a child comes and says, my trouser is torn, I need new trousers. So you say, okay, we'll go on Saturday and get some trousers. But when it's deen, regarding deen, you sit with them. Salma radiallahu ta'ala says that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam sat with her son, with her children, previous marriage. Abu Salma. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught him where to eat from, how to eat from. This is a father teaching his child. But today, mashallah, everybody is eating in their own room. In those days, we had to sit together as a family. Many of us don't even do that nowadays. So everybody comes in a plate and takes some upstairs in their own room. The barakah is in the eating together. The sunnah way of eating together. If we sit together, when we see a child do something wrong, we can tell him, do not waste. Do not eat from this side. Do not do this. Do not do that. But unfortunately, there is no love between the family. This is love. When you eat together, Allah creates a bond. Allah creates a love. So we should try to adopt this method. When a child goes to sleep, sit down with them. Talk to them. Read them something from the books. No, we don't have time. We don't have time. A time will come when they will not have time for us. Because I have important things to do. Somebody sent me a very nice post of a gravestone. On the gravestone it was written, "Main aham tha, ye mera waham tha." I thought I was important, but it was my illusion. Life goes on. You live or you don't live. Life will still continue. Or do I think, no, if I die, what will happen to my family? What will happen to the community? I am the imam of the community and I should be doing this. I am the president of this masjid and I, if I die, what will happen? It will, no, everything will continue. मैं अहम था, ये मेरा वहम था. This is why the pious is to say that go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because every person will go to Allah after the death. Or is there any question? We will all go to Allah after our death, but the wise and clever person is he who goes to Allah before his death. Meaning, he sacrifices everything for the sake of Allah. Dr. Abdul Hayy rahmatullah alayhi, a disciple of Hazrat Mawlana Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahmatullah alayhi, he mentions a very interesting thing I want to share with you. He said, when I read the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ, that every action will be according to his intention. So he started to think, no, I want to act upon this hadith and I want to do everything as sunnah, as the way the Prophet ﷺ has done. As he was thinking, few children came in front of him. Now, in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, it is mentioned in the books of hadith, the Prophet ﷺ is to take them on the lap, he is to wipe their hand over his head, he is to kiss them, he is to show affection and love towards the child. So, Dr. Abdul Hayy rahmatullah alayhi said, this is what I will do. We all love our child, don't we? We all kiss our child. We all put our hands over the head of a child. But don't do it because it's a custom, do it because it's a sunnah. Everything changes. Everything. We have to eat. We have to drink. We have to talk. We have to do this. We have to do everything. But think, just before you do it, just think. He said, is this the way the Prophet ﷺ did? Is this how the Prophet ﷺ did? خير التابعين. Do you know who was خير التابعين? Hazrat? Sorry? Awais Qarni. Awais Qarni radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he wanted to come to the service of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wrote back, no, you have your disabled mother, an old mother, look after. So he didn't come. But the message reached him that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of his teeth became shaheed in Battle of Uhud. So he thought to himself, I as a follower of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam doesn't have a teeth, and I as a ummati have all my teeth. So he somehow, those days he didn't have the dentist, so he took one teeth out. Then he thought to himself, the one that I took, it could be this one, so he took this one out. Then he thought it could be this one. He took all his teeth out. The love of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the Prophet doesn't have a teeth and I as his ummati have teeth. Now, his status, Awais Qarni radiyallahu ta'ala, his status, he is khairut tabi'een, best amongst the tabi'een. This is the laqab given by who? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says to Umar and Ali radiyallahu ta'ala, O Umar, O Ali, in your time you will come across a person from Qarn whose name will be Awais. If you meet him, if you greet him, convey my salam to him and ask him to make dua for you, seeking istighfar for you. Who's he saying? The Prophet sallallahu saying to who? Umar and Ali. When we know for a fact Umar and Ali are amongst the Ashara al-Mubashshar, they're already given Jannah. In the expedition of Tabuk, it is mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ encouraged the Sahabas to give as much as you can in the path of Allah. So Usman radiallahu ta'ala came. Usman radiallahu ta'ala was sitting on his right, the Prophet ﷺ right. So the Prophet ﷺ encouraged. So Usman radiallahu ta'ala stood from the right and he said, O Prophet of Allah, I will give 70 camel fully loaded. I mean everything that a person needs in his battle. The Prophet sallallahu, when he heard that, he made dua. Now, because he was facing the right, now he faced the turn and towards the left. Because he got an answer from someone from the right, but he didn't get an answer from someone from the left. So he put his attention towards the left and he said, is there anybody who can give in the path of Allah? So Osman radiallahu ta'ala says he moved from there to the left. Because the rahmah is facing the left now. So he went there and he said, "O Prophet of Allah, I will give you another 70 fully loaded." So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "O Usman, from this day onward, even if you don't do a single good deed, you still Jannah. You still in Jannah." Now, Osman radiallahu Jannah, Ali radiallahu Jannah, Umar radiallahu Jannah. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying to Umar and Ali that when you meet always, convey my salam and ask him to make dua for you. So Umar radiallahu ta'ala went, every Hajj he used to do, eventually one Hajj he found him, he asked him, he conveyed the salam. Now imagine Awais Qarni, the love he had for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Teach the children the love of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Many children don't even know what love is, but everybody knows who Muhammad Salah is. Everybody knows who Hazard is. Everybody knows all the football players, even the subs. We don't know the name of the Sahabas, Ashar al-Mubashara. Whose fault is that? Imam Sahib's fault? You only give your child for an hour and a half. उसमें भी फोन करके मेरा बच्चा तबीयत खराब है, स्कूल में तो गया, but मस्जिद में आने के लिए he's not feeling well, I have to take him to the doctors, we're going for a holiday, we're doing this. So, and you want us to feed your child everything? So my brothers and sisters, it is important that we understand, we realize, we act upon the Islam fully. Not half niche, fully. Then inshallah, summa inshallah, our children will benefit. Our children will see. That is why in one of ulama have mentioned that when you recite the Quran, recite with tadabbur, with thinking, with reflecting upon it. When you seek forgiveness from Allah. Thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And importantly, as parents, as guardians of children, don't miss tahajjud. Not the 5-time prayer, think about tahajjud, the nightly prayer. MashaAllah, this is winter. Before we go to bed, offer 2 rakat salah, because it is mentioned in the books, the pious, you were asked, why do you offer salah? They say, I am offering for salah for my offspring, for the benefit of my offspring, for my children. Because that is the best time to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for your children. Today, you won't believe the calls that we receive and the question that we get. People are, changing. People are deserting Islam because they're confused. They don't understand this. We had this from the University of Portsmouth. We had quite a lot of professionals come to the masjid to see the masjid, to understand about Islam. So one of the questions they asked me was, is forced marriage allowed in Islam? So I said, that's not one question, that's 2 questions. One is forced marriage, one is regarding Islam, regarding marriage in Islam. There's 2 things, 2 different things. Forced marriage, Islam doesn't even recognize it. So don't add that to this. And this is what we do. So when we as parents want to convey something, when we want to get the message through the young ones, beta, this is in the hadith, in the books of hadith, ulama have done. Don't put rubbish in front of him. If you don't know it, ask someone. So let us learn the Quran, let us learn the hadith. When the gathering takes place of hadith and Quran, learn. Sit down. When a person is not listening, when books of hadith is being read, if you really need to go out, don't disrespect the books of hadith. These Imam Bukhari rahmatullah alayhi is mentioned in one of his books. He says, when a person is engaged in hadith, remember a few things. Number 1, you are in the company of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You asking the best of the knowledge, i.e. the hadith. So don't disrespect this. So when you sit to listen lecture, to listen to hadith, listen properly, attentively, because these are the golden words of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just to finish on this. Once Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala, this is how we should teach our children. Once Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala sat with Hassan radiallahu ta'ala by the doorsteps. A ghareeb, a beggar came, and he said, "Oh Ali, give me something in the name of Allah." So Ali radiallahu ta'ala sent his son Hassan to Hazrat Fatima radiallahu ta'ala and said, "Go ask your mother that the 6 dirham that I gave, give 1 dirham from there." So he went and he asked. The Fatima radiallahu ta'ala said, "But this is something that you need yourself." Fatima radiallahu ta'ala told to Hassan that, "Go tell your father, this is something that you gave me to put away for your need. So do you want me to give him?" So Hassan came back and said, "Abba, the money that you gave to Amma is for your need. You said to Amma to keep it. So do you want to give? Do you want her to give from there?" Because they had nothing else. So Ali radiallahu said, "Hassan, go back and tell her not 1, give me all 6. I need it now." So he went, he got the 6 from Fatima and he gave it to the beggar. Hassan is watching. Hassan radiallahu ta'ala is watching, but the father did. Today, if a beggar comes, don't open the door. If you want to give him the old coppers. We're teaching our children wrong things. So, Ali radiallahu ta'ala gave all 6 and he sat down. In the meantime, we all know, you give 1, you get 10. You give 1, you get 10. So he gave 6. Remember, he gave 6. At this particular time, a person was going with his camel. Ali radiallahu ta'ala stopped him. He said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to the market to sell the camel." He said, "Why you want to go all that way? How much you want to sell?" He said, "I like 140 dirham. 140 dirham. He said, "I'll buy it off you, but the condition is that I'll have to give you money a bit later." He said, "Ali, I trust you. Okay, take it." So he bought the camel for 140 dirhams. So he tied it in front of his house. After some time, another Sahabi came. He said, "Ali, what are you doing with this camel?" He said, "I need this camel." "But it looks very good. You want to sell it?" "Yeah, okay, I'll sell it." "How much?" 60. Sorry, 200. He said, "Okay." So he sold it for 200. The first thing he did, he took 140 and gave it to who he bought it from. And then he gave 60 to Hassan and said, "Give back to your mom and tell her 1, 10. This is 6 she gave. I'm giving her back how much? 6. Teach your children these kind of manners. Teach them how to eat. Teach them how to sit. Teach them how to sleep. Teach them how to talk. And then eventually this confusion will slightly move away, or else they will be confused. They will not. It's like, we all know when you leave this world, you take nothing with you. Can you take anything with you? So this person dies. So he does a wasiyat, that after my death, I have this old socks that was given to me by someone very special. When you covered me, washed me, covered me, place the 2 socks onto my feet. Place these 2 socks onto my feet. So the son, after his everything, he remembered his letter of his father, so he went and he bought these 2 socks and he wanted to put it on. People said, "What are you doing?" He said, "My father's wasiyat is to put these old 2 socks on his feet." He said, "You can't do that." He said, "Yeah, this is wasiyat. Just 2 old socks. It's not taking us his bank cards or anything. 2 socks, old socks." I said, "No." Asked the ulama, asked the Mufti Liaqat, would they allow it? They said, "No, why should you be giving him socks?" So he said, Allah ke wasta, this is his 2 socks. He's requested, this is wasiyah. He's requested these 2 socks for him. He said, "No." The moral of the story is, you won't even be able to take your old 2 socks. What are we going to take with us? Bank cards, mobile, tablets, internet. take nothing with you, just the shrubs. So my brothers and sisters, I urge you, teach your children. This confusion they are growing up in, all from all directions. Wallahi al-Azim, the question that you get, I ask the children, we sit down with the children, ask them, what confusion do you have? What do you get? Oh, my teacher told us this, my teacher told us that, my teacher is teaching Islamic, RA, religious studies. Who? Non-Muslim teaching Islam about? Confusion after confusion, confusion after confusion. So we need to get out of this box and get out. Our children, they go to school, let them go to school, but teach them. Teach them the rights from Islam. When they come to the masjid, make sure they are punctual. They listen to the teacher, and then when they go back home, listen to them. What did the Imam Sahib tell you today? What lesson did you learn today? And then you yourself study Islam, so you can talk to your children. So when a child does something wrong, you shouldn't be doing it like that. I heard it should be done like this. The Prophet sallallahu, this hadith. So you learn hadith as well. So when we learn, our children will learn. When we do good, our children benefit. If we do evil, our children will face the consequences. Remember that. If I, as a father, does something wrong, the consequences will be paid by my child. So brothers, when Abdullah ibn Zubair, was Zubair ibn Awam radiallahu ta'ala, one of the Ashara Mubashara, he died. But people used to give him trust. So he used to keep this trust. But he used to tell them, listen, don't give me as a trust, because in trust, the qanun, the law of Islamic law is, if in your trust, somebody gave you trust, £100, you lost it, you're not zamin for it. You don't have to pay him back. But if you take loan and that got destroyed, you still have to pay back the loan. You see the difference? So when they used to give to Abdullah ibn Zubair, he used to say, don't give me as a trust, give me as a loan. So a time came in Jamal, he called his Abdullah ibn Zubair and he said, I think this is my time. So I have a huge debt, I want you to clear this debt. He said, okay, inshallah. The amount came up to 2.2 million dirham. How much? 2.2 million dirham. The ulama have written that Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu ta'ala was so surprised and so worried that how will I pay my father's debt? But then eventually he sought Allah's guidance, and eventually he sold the estate of Abdullah ibn Zubair ibn Awam. He got 50 million from that. From then he gave his debt and he clears his debt. Leave a child of that nature. Or else a child will come to me and come to the Imams and say, Imam Sahib, 10 years ago at this date my father passed away. Make them go. That's all he remembers. He doesn't remember anything else. He's taken everything of his father's. Oh, my father hasn't left anything. My father is this, that. And he's criticizing. But when it comes to deen, so let us teach our children, leave our children in this manner, that they do not get confused in matters of deen. Do not mix religion, culture, society. Keep away from these things. Another one more, just advice. Somebody rang me a couple of days back and said, don't share your good news or bad news on media, social media. Al-haqqu aynun. Remember this. Your friends, your enemy, you don't know who your friend, your enemy is. So don't share, mashallah, today, I have so many followers, I have so many likes. Forget everything. Just think, if Allah likes it, alhamdulillah. May ahamta, ye mera, wahamta. Subhanallah, bihamdi, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa nashhadu anna Muhammadan. Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khairan. Alhamdulillah. Some very important, valuable advice. Some of it may seem very basic in terms of the manners that we should teach our children, but alhamdulillah, they go a very long way. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the ability to understand and implement, inshallah. And we are very grateful to Shaykh Mufti Liaqat for coming here out of his busy schedule. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him afiyah in this world and the next, inshallah. Brothers and sisters, just very quickly, there's some refreshments, tea and biscuits that will be provided upon the completion of the dua. For the men, if you can please take your shoes, go from the outside. As we have taekwondo classes taking place, you can go directly from the back. If you take your shoes and go from the outside through the fire exit doors, the men will have their tea and refreshments there, and the women, there's the classroom that's next door to the women's section prayer hall. That's where you will be served your tea and refreshments, inshallah. So please do participate in the refreshments, and we are grateful for all of you to come, inshallah. And inshallah, just a reminder, inshallah, towards the end of January, we also hope that Maulana Salim Durasa will be coming here, and we, inshallah, will keep you informed as to the exact day and time, inshallah. Jazakumullah.
اللهم من اللهم انت السلام ومنك السلام واليك يرجع السلام فحينا ربنا بالسلام وادخلنا دار دار السلام تبارك ربنا وتعالى ذا الجلال والاكرام. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم ربنا ظلمنا انفسنا وان لم تغفر لنا انك انت الغفور الرحيم. اللهم ربنا هب لنا من ازواجنا وذرياتنا قرة اعين واجعلنا للمتقين اماما. اللهم اني اسالك من خير ما سالك منه نبيك سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ منه نبيك سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. انت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوه الا بالله العلي العظيم. وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى على خير خلقه محمد واله واصحابه اجمعين. سبحان ربك رب العزه عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله.